everyone. You know what's amazing? I have grown as a person who sits in front of a camera and talks to it so much since the beginning of this year. Today I'm here to share with you my reading goals updates. I was supposed to do this shortly after my quarterly wrap up, but I completely forgot. But I was reminded when I saw Rincey's video a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just now getting around to it. But I had lost my lists for my 2014 goals, so I had to go back and rewatch my videos from either the end of last year or the very beginning of this year, and it was like a completely different person. So I'm very happy with my growth on this channel. But let's dive into my goals and see how I'm doing thus far. I'm gonna first just list off those reading goals, and then we'll talk about in more depth my progress for each of those goals and reevaluate those goals and see how many of them I'm gonna actually stick with through to the end of the year. The first goal on my list was to read 10 classics. Second goal was to read 10 books that I own. My third goal was to read 14 books from a list of 14 books that I wanted to read in 2014. My next goal was to read 10 books with 500 or more pages. My next goal was to read 30 books, but then I upped that to 50, and I most recently upped that to 60 books. I also had the goal to do or participate in 12 buddy reads throughout the year of 2014. I aimed to do a book talk for every book that I read in 2014, and I also had 2 video related goals, which included uploading a video every Friday and trying to make as many videos as possible, 5 minutes or less. So let's see how I'm doing in each of those goals. The first goal is to read 10 classics. I've only read 4 books that I consider classics, and one of them's kind of pushing it. It's more of probably a modern classic. Those books are Emma by Jane Austen, that I read back in February. The second book is Anne of Green Gables, that I also read in February. The third book was The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, which is pushing it, but I read it in March. And the last book that I consider a classic that I've read this year was Animal Farm by George Orwell, and I read that back in July. I don't know that I will complete this goal. I find it highly unlikely that I'll actually read 6 classics, so this may be a goal that I set aside. I would like to read more classics before the year's end, but I feel like if I read at least one more before the end of the year, I'll be okay. I am a little uneasy about not completing a goal. I like to reach my goals, but I'm not gonna like force myself to do it either, because I feel like that's just a great way for me to not have fun reading. The second one was to read 10 books that I owned, and at the beginning of the year I was actually really good at this, so I completed that goal really early on in 2014. It's kind of been replaced by my Read 5 Before I Buy project, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The next goal was to read 14 books from a list that I created at the end of 2014, and funnily enough, that video is one of my most watched videos, if not my most watched video, which is really bizarre to me and kind of makes me cringe. But I was surprised to see that I had actually read 7 books from that list. I have 7 left, and one of them I'm currently reading. One I had removed completely from the list because I had no desire to read it any longer. So I still have 6 books from that list to read. I don't know that I'll get to them because I still want to read them eventually, but my passion for them isn't burning right now. So we'll see how that one goes by the end of the year. If you are interested in seeing what those 14 books are, I will hesitantly try to remember to leave the link to the 14 books I wanted to read in 2014 in the description below. The next goal that I had was to read 10 books that had 500 pages or more in 2014, and I was also surprised to see how well I was doing with this one. I have at this time read 7 books that had 500 or plus pages, so that means I just have to read 3 more, which sounds a little daunting, but if they're good books, I'll probably speed through them. The 3 that I'm kind of leaning towards reading are All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, which I have on my Kindle. The first book in the Mistborn series, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which I also have on my Kindle. And I might be able to include 2666 by Roberto Bolaño. The next goal that I had was to read 30 books, because I was basing that on the fact that I was going to try to read bigger books and read classics, which kind of happened and kind of didn't, but I ended up reading 30 books really early in the year, so I upped that to 50, and I very recently surpassed that, and I'm currently at 55 and have raised the goal to 60. Unless something unforeseeable happens, I think that I'll be able to reach the goal of reading 60 books in 2014. The next goal was to do 12 buddy reads, and I have at this date done 15 or 16. I've kind of lost count, but I think that the purpose of this goal was to be more social and to make friends and to be better about talking about books. I'm still not 100% the best. I feel like the purpose has been fulfilled. I feel like I am considerably better than I was in January of 2014. So I feel like I met the goal. The next challenge was to do a book talk or book review for every book that I read, and I was doing really well with this one, but I am now, I think, 18 or 19 books behind Probably going to have to combine them if I'm going to finish this goal by the end of 2014. But again, I think that the purpose of this goal was to just improve my communication skills. And I feel like I'm way better at talking in front of a camera about books than I was at the beginning of the year. So even if I don't reach this goal, I think that I've grown and the purpose of the goal has been fulfilled. And the last two were the video related ones, which was upload a video every Friday, which I kind of changed mid-year and just decided as long as I upload one video a week, then we'd call it good. And the other one was to try to make videos 5 minutes or less. And I feel like that's kind of arbitrary. I feel like I can make a good video where there's not rambling and that is concise and still go slightly over 5 minutes. And I don't think that most of you mind longer videos as long as the quality is decent. And I think that I think I'm there. I think, could be wrong, but I think that that goal is not really important anymore. And that's all that I have to share with you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. As always, please feel free to share your thoughts on anything that I shared here today in the comments below. I will see you soon with a new video.